5 Live. Should overweight and obese people be sent to slimming clubs on the NHS? That's the latest advice, and it's from NICE, the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. It also suggests that losing a little weight, as little as 3% a year, but keeping it off, could cut blood pressure and reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes and some cancers. The guidance for the NHS in England says that patients should be put on weight management programmes that focus on lifelong change and not risk yo-yo dieting. And the guidance includes putting people on commercial programmes, including Rosemary Conley, Slimming World and Weight Watchers. In England, most people are overweight or obese, including 62% of adults and 28% of children. According to NICE, health problems associated with being overweight or obese cost the NHS more than £5 billion every year. So, should Slimming World and Weight Watchers be prescribed on the NHS? 0500 909 693. Let's talk to Paul Gately, Professor of Exercise and Obesity at Leeds Metropolitan University. Dr Ian Campbell, who's an obesity specialist, GP in Nottingham. Kim Lawton, who at her heaviest was 43 stone. She lost 29 stone in under 3 years. Matthew Simpson is 39. He weighs 23.5 stone and is about to have a gastric sleeve fitted. Fatima Parker weighs around 17 stone and campaigns on obesity issues. Welcome, all of you. Professor Gately, I'll ask all of you for your reaction, first of all, to this latest advice. Paul Gately, these kind of commercial weight loss programmes prescribed on the NHS, what do you think?
Well, it's great. There is evidence that these programmes work. They don't work for everybody, which is what the evidence says. So 1 in 3 people will maintain their weight loss at a year. So that, it's pretty sound evidence for investment in this way. But it is only one of a number of measures that need to be used. And surgery is a cost-effective measure as well, with very strong evidence, as are multidisciplinary services where we have GPs and psychologists, dietitians all working together. But one of the problems is with the new guidance, the guidance is only as good as if it's implemented. And one of the big problems we face at the moment is we have fantastic guidance in the UK and particularly NICE guidance. But it is what the evidence shows very clearly is its implementation throughout England is very, very patchy. So in some areas there is really great services, and in many, many areas there's very little access to high quality services.
OK. Dr Campbell, good advice from NICE?
Good advice, but tempered. I think that there is, as Paul says, lots of evidence that some of these programmes can work for some people. My concern is that actually the ones that have been cited don't actually fully comply with the guidance that NICE has said, because NICE very importantly says that we should be making sure that people are encouraged towards behavioural change, and that's something that most weight loss programmes actually just pay lip service to. And the other key ingredient, of course, is physical activity. And again, there's very few programmes that have a structured physical activity programme as part of their weight loss programme.
OK. What do you think of this, Kim?
I have to agree with Dr Campbell. It is that it's with slimming clubs, it's more verbal than actually programming physical exercise, although I have to agree that it can help in the long term.
Matthew?
Slimming World did work for me the first time, but the doctors and my consultant now are saying I'm type 2 diabetic, I've got depression, I've got anxiety, and I'm costing the NHS thousands in medication and prescriptions and doctor's appointments. So now they've moved for me to have a gastric sleeve, which will eliminate my diabetes straight away, and I'll lose up to 50 to 70 kilos in a year.
And just tell our listeners what a gastric sleeve is.
It's basically they're going to cut away 70% of my stomach. So my biggest problem is hunger. I'm always hungry, which is my own fault because I've been overweight for years. So that I'm saying there's a cost-effective way. It's just one operation, all done and dusted. I lose 11 stone. There's no more medication for diabetes, no more doctor's appointments, and I'm not a drain on the NHS anymore. It's just one lump sum.
Fatima, have you tried any of these programmes that are now being recommended on the NHS?
Yes, for many years, of course.
I think this weight loss is not new, and these dieting programs and dieting companies have been active for many, many years. And the rate of failure is 95% of the people who undertake the dieting program, and they regain, 90% would regain the weight and back, and even more. What I'm pleased with from the guidelines is the 3% that is now required, which is very good. It's a really step forward, because before we were asked to, there was the BMI, and before that there were the charts, and we had to abide by the chart and lose all the weight, which was very difficult. But 3%, I think we can achieve that without going to all these weight loss programs, if we encourage people to change the paradigm in the government and everyone from the weight-centered to health-centered. We encourage people to be healthy. Losing the 3% would be a lot easier if you change your lifestyle, and you'll keep it because you love your body and you'll care for your health.
Kim, you too have done Weight Watchers, and presumably it helped in the short term, but did you then put the weight back on and have to go back and the weight came on again? Is that how it works?
Yeah, it's, for me, I did, mainly it was Slimming World rather than Weight Watchers. I'd done Weight Watchers as well. But it was a case that I lost the weight, and I thought, yeah, I look good, great. And then I go back to old eating habits, because it's like, yeah, the weight's going to stay off. And it doesn't work like that. And it's sort of the aftercare that you need more now than just the short term of, yeah, you've done well, you've lost the weight, you maintain it. But, I put, after doing Slimming World, I'd lost 5 stone with Slimming World, I put nearly double back on afterwards. So it's more the after support that is needed with these slimming clubs.
So what happened in the end that led to you losing so much weight and it staying off?
It's a case that I got other health issues. I'd got type 2 diabetes, so I was having insulin injections. There was also a heart condition in my father's side of the family, which I developed, so I had atrial fibrillation. And it basically looked at myself in a show that I'd done in my hometown and thought, I look awful. And it was that point I thought, I don't want to look like this anymore. I'm doing it for me. And that's the big thing. You have to do it for yourself. No one else. It has to be you. But it was reprogramming myself to say, I need smaller portions. I don't need to fill my plate up. When I'm full, put my knife and fork down. So it was a lot of reprogramming. So before my operation, because I had a full bypass, I actually lost 12 stone pre-op, because you have to prove that you're able to lose weight. So I'd lost 12 stone. And unfortunately, the February, I had my operation in the May. The February before, I actually had a massive heart attack.
How old were you then?
I would have been 32.
Okay. And
had a heart attack at 32, which was like, really need to do something now. I'd lost a lot of weight. I'd gone back to Derby Royal, which is the group that I was under. And they said, yes, we'll get you in. And in the May, I had a bypass, and the weight's just been falling off since then.
Okay, let me bring Professor Paul Gately back in on the cost of everything. How much obesity is costing the NHS at the moment, how much gastric bans cost, how much weight loss programmes cost, how much money can be saved if people lost some weight?
Okay, so I think one comment to make. I think the 95% failure rate is actually not supported by current evidence. The evidence is clear that about 1 in 3 people even on the commercial weight loss programs will maintain that weight loss at 1 year. So they can be effective. I think that's the key point to make, and that's important in terms of cost effectiveness, which is why NICE have accepted those as part of the portfolio. But however, what we've got to be clear about is when people are not successful in those programs, then we need more intensive and more supportive and clinically focused programs, including doctors and dietitians and psychologists, and they're called Tier 3 services, and they're available in a number of locations around the UK. In terms of cost effectiveness, we know obesity is costing our economy in terms of the NHS about just over £6 billion a year, which in addition to that, the Foresight report, which is a government agency, outlined that therefore the societal cost of obesity is somewhere in the region of about 21 billion. So obesity is by far the most expensive public health issue out there. And we know from the evidence base by the Royal College of Physicians that if effective services across the UK were put into place, i.e. the implementation of NICE guidance effectively across England, that would save about £16 million a year. So, there is a very strong case for cost effectiveness. The big problem is at the moment, in terms of public health expenditure, a recent report by the charity Helping Overcome Obesity Problems, they outlined that about 2.5% of the public health allocation, i.e. what government gives to local authorities, is spent on the treatment of obesity. So it's a very small amount of money. At the same time, those local authorities spending nearly 30% of their allocation on substance misuse and about 21% of their allocation on sexual health. So, I'm not saying that investment in those other conditions are not important, but fundamentally, we do not prioritise obesity action in the UK. And whilst we have these cost-effective services, and it's fantastic that we have new NICE guidance, it can only be as good as being implemented.
Okay. Dr. Campbell, Kim has described her own motivation. Clearly, having a heart attack age 32 was a huge driver in her wanting to be successful in losing weight and keeping it off. How much can the NHS motivate people to try and lose weight, do you believe?
That's a great point to raise. I mean, Paul knows his numbers, of course, but if 2/3 of people haven't maintained weight loss over 12 months, that means that the majority of people are failing with commercial weight loss programs. And what your contributor said about her own driver is very important. We provide both dietary advice and physical activity advice, but also what we call mind coaching through a program called Bodilibrium. And that gets fantastic results because it hooks into an individual's driver. You've got to find out what it is that an individual needs to make those lifestyle changes, because only when you do that will you really produce long-term weight loss.
Matthew, what do you think of what Ian's just said?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Like I've done great since I've been speaking to my weight counsellor. But it took 4 months from my doctor putting me through to her to get me an appointment, because there's so many people. Really, we need more weight counsellors like Jane DeVille, like Wendy Wells. They're amazing people. They actually help you change your life, and they understand. You sit in the doctor's surgery and your doctor's bigger than you and he's telling you you're obese. You're not going to get any motivation from that. And this is, you need more counsellors. I wouldn't be in this situation if I'd have got the help I'm getting now 10 years ago. So I think he's right, really. You need more weight counsellors, like midwives being trained up as counsellors. It'd be a good idea.
What do you think of that idea? Anybody?
No, it's very. I mean, I suppose I don't disagree with Ian, and he's absolutely right. We need a range of different services, and the commercial programs are relatively cheap, and therefore they're worth a go. If people are not successful, that's my point. Then they need to go to more specialist services, like what Ian's described, like what More Life provide across the country, and a number of other centres. So, in the same way as other clinical care, that doctors might prescribe certain medications that don't necessarily work first time, and then they move to more intensive therapies. So it's just a natural and pragmatic way of effective care management. And obesity should be treated no differently. And that's the problem, that we have great guidance, great evidence and great programs, but they are just not implemented within the UK widely enough.
Here's Rob in Essex. Rob, hello, good morning.
Oh, good morning, Victoria.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm overweight. I'm 26 or 27 stone. And I'm just wondering, why should the NHS have to pay for the fact that I'm fat? It's my fault, yeah? Because I do overeat extremely, yeah? So why should the NHS have to foot that when the money could be used elsewhere?
Ian Campbell, how would you talk to Rob? How would you respond to him?
The problem we have in the NHS is that we're actually, we are a ration service, and there's no getting away from that. And I think what we need to do is find cost-effective ways at delivering weight management. And those that are making the decisions about how we spend money in the NHS need to prioritise obesity to provide a holistic care. Because too often what's happening is we're sort of doing a box-ticking exercise so we can show that we're doing something, but actually there's no evidence to back it up and there's no long-term follow-up. So tailoring programs to individuals, putting resources in place so that the NHS actually invests in it properly, because ultimately we'll all reap the dividends, then that's the only way that we'll see real change.
All right, that's good.
Can I add to that point? I think
Please.
One of the things that we've got, if anyone goes on the Cancer Research UK website now, what you will find is very clear commentary and evidence that a number of cancers are influenced by lifestyle behaviours. And therefore, in the same way, we look at heart disease as being, there are lifestyle contributing factors to heart disease, there are lifestyle contributing factors to cancer, there are lifestyle contributing factors to obesity, but we don't treat them the same. And that's a fundamental problem with obesity management, that actually the determinants of those three conditions are relatively similar, that there are genetic, there are biological, there are environmental, and there are lifestyle factors that all contribute to those three conditions. And yet, when the speaker's commentary is saying, well, as an obese person, why should I receive care? Well, one could ask the same question of cancer sufferers and heart disease sufferers. Now, no one will question that, and I wouldn't question that either. It's absolutely right that cancer sufferers and heart disease sufferers get the best quality care they can receive. But why is it different for obese people when the determinants of that condition are pretty much the same?
Can I add something?
Please do.
You see, we come back now to the major and important point of stigmatizing. I mean, my identity is 17 stone. It isn't. My identity is my identity. My weight is a statistic. So the most of the people who commented, my colleagues here, not the professionals, they were saying that it's their fault. That is what is embedded and ingrained in us as fatties. It is our fault. We don't know how to eat. We are lazy. We're gluttonous, and the whole society is against us. And the gentleman has just said, why is it okay for someone with cancer to have treatment, but someone who has an eating disorder is blamed or doesn't even feel that he deserves it? So what we need to do, and is a major point, is to remove the stigma and to remove the shame and the attack on fat. You see, you don't need to be 17 stone to be insulted. You can be a size 10 now, and you are called fatty. Just look at all the problems we see with stars and with insults on Twitter and all the other social media on celebrities who just put on a couple of pounds. So we have to remove the shame from fat, accept that we come in different shapes and sizes, and encourage people to lead a healthy lifestyle. So if you're fat and you have a problem that is causing you to be fat, we have to deal with it as such. Not because you're fat, we have to eliminate you, and we have to reduce the fatties in our society. Fat is all over the world, but there are fat people who are healthy and fat people who are not. It's the same as there are thin people who are healthy and thin people who are not.
Thank you. Fatima Parker, Matthew Simpson, Kim Lawton, Dr. Ian Campbell and Professor Paul Gately, many thanks. 10:32, your views welcome, 0500 909 693. Here's the news now from Rachel.